Hello, everyone. We are back live from Mesa, Arizona for the sector qualifier. I'm Josh Snyder. I've got Grumpy along with me doing some casting here for round two as we get set. We're actually going to jump right into the match. We got some technical difficulties taken care of, and now we are jumping into this match. We've got CAD Tarkentown, and it looks like we've got Emperor Palpatine Colossus, 11 damage on that Colossus base, 1 damage on Tarkentown. That is George Hudson on the right, George the Hulk Hudson. We've got Justin on the left. And it looks like George has done a very good job so far of putting on some big pressure in that ground arena.
Yeah, these CAD Target decks, one of the potential responses to the Han 2s that have been on the rise, able to capitalize with the pings and those target towns to finish off the already damaged units. But here, needing to play the full aggression route against this Palpatine Colossus, the question for George will be, can he get through not 30, not 33, but 35 damage before this Palpatine Colossus is able to stabilize, looking potentially to Super Laser Blast on 8 to reset the board, and then on 9, flip this Emperor Palpatine, steal something from George Hudson's side, and then close the window for George Hudson to potentially ever put through a single additional point of damage onto the base.
The entrenched locking down the Zuckuss. We see the no glory only results as well, helping to clean up this ground arena a little bit. But now here comes a big play from George. He's going to deploy Cad Bane, and he is going to plot Sudden Ferocity and Garandan. Now let's see what he names. Whatever he named, he did not hit, as we saw the Pershing Invader in hand. But now this Cad Bane is going to get +3. He's swinging for 7. It's 26 damage on Colossus.
26 damage, which is 9 short of what he needs, but crucially, the Palp has arrived at the 8 resource turn. So the question's going to be, is there a Super Laser Blast in hand to offer a full reset? If so, that's going to buy at least 1 round of breathing room. And then when we think of this CAD Tarkentown build, what kind of reach does it have? George Hudson may then need to look for cards like Ruthless Raider, for cards like Devastator, cards that can deal damage from hand. But look at
I'm
this,
just
the
going to
Palpatine
scoop it
player
up.
says, I
Yeah.
don't have the Super Laser Blast. I don't have any way to stop you getting through that 9 damage this turn. And that's one of the gambles that you take when you use a base like Colossus. You're starting with 1 card down, Emperor Palpatine trying to make up for that by using his leader ability to draw additional cards. But some of the time, even with a 50 card deck, not the 60 of Data Vault, just the 50 from Colossus, you still don't get to your Super Laser Blast in time. Almost certainly 3 of them for Jacoby and his Palpatine Colossus deck, but drew none of those 3, allowing George the Hulk from the Bothan Network to take game 1.
George the Hulk off to a fantastic start with this Cad Bane Tarkentown deck, and certainly the more aggressive version filled up with these 1-drops. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, Grumpy. What was going to come of the Tarkentown decks? Han 2 had such a dominant performance at Tilburg last week.
And stream this Arizona sector. Thank you to Star City Games for helping to organize the sector. Thank you to Metal Fab, our sponsor, also creator of that incredible McClunky Gaming Initiative token. There will be a giveaway this weekend for 5 of those initiative tokens. So if you like what you see on the stream, you can pop on over to the McClunky Gaming Discord. The link and invitation is in the YouTube video description. Enter that giveaway for your chance.
And now Jacoby with the initiative going into turn 2. Oh, look at this. George just pouring on the pressure. 4 quick damage on the base as he puts down the hunting assassin droid. Jacoby needs to stabilize quickly.
Stabilize quickly or ramp quickly. We see him resupply, followed immediately by a super laser technician. George gonna bounce that. George is the race to 35.
George is doing a fantastic job, able to put another 8 damage on that Colossus last turn with the criminal muscle, the hunting assassin droid, and the antagonizer. Now that super laser technician taken out right away as we get the extra resource for Jacoby.
George now hitting 6. So the question will be, does Jacoby choose to fire off the Super Laser Blast? If he has it, and he does, there it is. It's going to be a board clear. George going to be able to redeploy, especially with that CAD leader unit, to continue to push through damage. So all is not lost. This is just Jacoby hitting his first benchmark of the game on Jacoby's base.
George, a little bit of a setback. We'll see how he responds. Does he have some plot? Can he make the most of this CAD deploy? Just, I believe, 3 cards left in George's hand. George is just going to continue to put pressure, trying to redevelop this board as he extends presence in the ground arena.
Yeah, George choosing not to deploy his CAD leader here, which is it's a difficult position to be in as the CAD player. On the one hand, you deploy your CAD leader, you get 4 damage in, you
Intervention, it's got ambush. We are going to see one of the Nile Marauders defeated, and Jacoby is able to heal. He's going to heal a total of 6. What a momentum shift and a great play for Jacoby.
Yeah, given that these were the answers that Jacoby had, it would have been better for when he's able to take advantage of that new mechanic from Secrets of Power. But as it is, this ambushed reinforcement walker healing 6 from Jacoby's base while just taking 1 back very much has George now on the back foot. This Emperor Palpatine Colossus deck is exactly where it wants to be. 9 resources, just 12 damage.
The claim here for Jacoby. Action back on George the Hulk. How much does he want to extend this board? He has 2 cards in hand, but you talked about it. He's trying to be careful here. Is there another Super Laser Blast? We are going to see Cad Bane deployed. What plot are
Holding. George chooses the Annihilator, likely because Jacoby's already at 9 resources. If he can get to 11, Annihilator is pretty much a nail in the coffin for George this game. But that leaves Jacoby with 2 powerful options going into next turn. A Rival's Fall to take down the CAD leader, a Vigilance to
onto the Cad Bane? That damage was dealt off the Cad ability, then took out the reinforcement walker. But as Jacoby with the initiative and we get into the next action phase, even with the reinforcement walker cleaned up, we knew the Rival's Fall was in Jacoby's hand, and that Rival's Fall is going to quickly clean up the big threat in the Cad Bane.
chip in for 1, which is not nothing. Jacoby, however, with 5 resources, the opportunity to play another piece of removal, something like a takedown or vanquish if those are in his hand.
Jacoby's hand.
And leader with 9 health remaining that's going to be able to clear through these weenies pretty easily. But on the other hand, your Reckless Gunslinger throws another damage on base. You've cleared the Vigilance from Jacoby's hand. He's down to 11. And so this Palpatine can only take care of one thing at a time, which potentially gives the window to keep chipping in damage. And again, if you're George the Hulk, you're saying, do I have Ruthless Raiders in my deck? Do I have Devastators in my deck? Do I have cards that can push through damage from hand? So even once Jacoby regains full board control, I am able to close out this game by dealing 11 additional damage.
Jacoby with the initiative, starting out with Night Sister Warrior. We did see a Reckless Gunslinger coming out for George the Hulk at the end of that last action phase. Both new, I believe that was the new Thrawn.
Mm.
The new Thrawn, and it captured Night Sister. Jacoby choosing a non-leader unit, so it was captured, but an immediate Rival's Fall, taking it out. Another damage into Colossus here, and Palpatine just going to continue to clean up these little cheap units in George's ground arena.
So seeing that Thrawn suggests that George go for George the Hulk, Jacoby now starting to get a commanding board lead.
George just trying to reestablish some presence on the board. We see the Super Laser Technician and a Pershing now in the ground arena for Jacoby. George able to claim the initiative, does have some more cheap threats. Another Reckless Gunslinger came out. It's 27 damage on
stick, something like a Hotshot Blaster from the row. Looks like here's another Nile Marauder, so a Hotshot Blaster or Surprise Strike on that Nile Marauder would be enough to close the game. You just need to find one additional window, and now Jacoby on the back foot has to answer every single threat that George the Hulk plays.
So good value here off of this ability with that extra 1 damage. We're going to see timely intervention being smuggled once again for Jacoby, and we're going to see Darth Vader coming out. Twilight of the Apprentice will ambush and takes cards of George's deck, healing 5 from Jacoby's base. Jacoby getting closer and closer to stabilizing and sending this into a game 3.
Yeah, and interestingly, Josh, I don't think Tarkentown has been used this game. Certainly, this Dr. Pershing with 2 damage on it could be a target for Tarkentown to stop a little bit of the card draw, although Palpatine's leader ability is threatening to create this endless stream of card advantage at this point. But it's one thing that the Palpatine Colossus deck potentially just doesn't care about, right? It's not trying to be aggressive early, it's not really playing damaged units, and so it's depriving the Cad Bane.
Once again, cleaned up in the ground arena. Night Sister Warrior defeated. Jacoby drawing another card. Just continuing to get good card advantage here, building this hand back up between the Night Sister Warriors and this Dr. Pershing.
And in particular, the cards that he's getting are giving him options. We see a Power of the Dark Side that'd be a clean answer to this Devastator. We see a Traitorous. Certainly can't Traitorous the Devastator. Means for George the Hulk, it's potentially time to scoop, and that's
Yep,
exactly what he
that's
chooses to do.
yeah, just too tough a spot. Couldn't overcome the commanding position that Jacoby had built up on the board and finding the back-to-back vigilance. Big time for Jacoby, able to heal 10 damage from base and just in a great spot. So Jacoby coming back, taking game 2. We're all tied up.
Is the difference between game 2 and game 1. Even though George the Hulk had been able to waylay the Super Laser Technician the first time it hit the field, Jacoby simply replayed it the next turn and was able to get to that double ramp, then had the Super Laser Blast in hand on 8, which he did not have game 1. So he got to 8 faster. He had the Super Laser Blast, and even though he wasn't able to steal anything from George, not able to get to that full 35 that Colossus presents. Just an absolute tank of a number for a control deck to come into, and Palpatine able to use his draw ability to sort of mitigate the disadvantage that comes with starting with one fewer card in your hand.
Yeah, and we saw the value that Jacoby was able to generate off of Palpatine, as you mentioned, even not taking advantage of the when deployed ability, all of these little units that George had, Jacoby was able
Sort of designed to deal with this rise in Han2 ECL. One thing it doesn't have is the ability to deploy multiple threats from a single card. So it doesn't have access to those Queen Amidala's, to the Karis Nemeks, to the Cobb Vanth, to the Kelleran Vex, and instead is trying to play sort of little weenies to chip through damage, but that means it's more susceptible to things like Super Laser Blast, to things like, you say, the Emperor Palpatine Ping, and so this deck is going to be, feels like a little bit of an uphill battle against the game plan that the Emperor Palpatine Colossus is bringing.
Game 3 is officially underway. George sent the initiative over to Jacoby's side. We've got a couple 1-drops for George that have come out after it was a Dr. Pershing opening. 1 damage on the Pershing from the CAD ability. We're going to once again see a waylay bouncing that Super Laser Technician back to Jacoby's hand, but Pershing will start to generate.
Once your Super Laser Technician, that's going to be worth it for me as my tiny little weenies continue to chip in for additional damage.
George putting more pressure on the board, playing, I believe, just a 4-cost unit there, pinging off the Super Laser Technician. Jacoby getting an extra ready resource and another 5 damage coming in with the 2 bidding out units here in the ground arena. There's 4 units on Georgia's side of the table.
Yep, George saying, I'm going to take full advantage of the fact that you have not double ramped this game.
Of these ground threats on Georgia's side, it's another 3 damage to Colossus.
Up the waylay play was from George the Hulk. The waylay delayed Jacoby's ramp by 1 turn. Had the Super Laser Technician been able to ramp, the resupply could have potentially come out and gotten Jacoby to 8 with resources available to then either Super Laser Blast or flip and steal something. But instead, it's just going to be a
was able to get in for another 2. 20 damage right now, Jacoby's base. And look at this. We are going to see Cad Bane loaded up another 6 damage as the blaster goes on to Cad. And let's add another damage to each base here. Reckless Gunslinger coming out, 27 damage on Colossus, just 1 on Tarkentown.
a Palpatine leader flip, but Jacoby does not have it, which means he's not going to be able to answer the bulk of George the Hulk's units.
Yeah, the reinforcement walker will heal 3. Down to 24 went Colossus, but here comes the Cad Bane leader unit getting in for 3. Just 5 HP remaining. We are going to see Emperor Palpatine Colossus. What a great match.
Yeah, George able to really just capitalize on some early aggression, followed by a deep understanding of how he loses these matchups. He saw the double ramp into Super Laser Blast game two, and he said, I'm going to do whatever I need to do for additional damage to then put Jacoby in a position where he needed to have exactly the Super Laser Blast, or he just loses. And Jacoby didn't have it. He didn't have the blast. He didn't have a way to clear all of George the Hulk's units at one time. And so George the Hulk
Up next.